morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love. Good, good, good morning, sun. Good, good, good morning. Good, good morning. Good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love. Good, good, good morning, sun. Good morning, life. Good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love. Good, good morning, sun. Good, good morning, sun. Good morning, life. Good morning, sun.
Greetings, good afternoon, evening, morning. I don't know what time it is. So this is not a morning. I need coffee, obviously. The day was busy and got away from me, but I wanted to just get it done so that I didn't defer it and have to do it tomorrow and get pushed to the afternoon. Anyway, so with that, welcome, greetings. It'll be a diet soda for me. Cheers. And we have a lots of little stuff on tap. So I thought I'd just share with stuff I've been working on, reading, trying to pay attention to, trying to catch up on, putting on my to-do list. There are many, many things going on. If you ever think that there's not enough information or not enough activity going on with Business Central, boy, we need to talk. So, as I mentioned previously, there are two conferences in the United States that are coming up related to Dynamics. One is Summit North America, and that is scheduled for Houston, October 12th through 15th that week. Who knows whether it's going to happen or whether there's going to be complications or, anyway, I'm registered. I technically have a flight. It's like, I have no idea when it's going to arrive, what day it's going to occur, because the airline keeps changing it. So who knows? Then coming up in November, we are planning a Dynamics Con live event. You're familiar with the online Dynamics Con conference coming up in September. There is going to be a Dynamics Con live, fingers crossed, in Anaheim, November 10th and 11th. So we are working on planning that. So will we be able to have these events? I don't know. We're going to try. Many people I've spoken to really want to attend it or attend in-person events. They're looking forward to it. So we'll see what happens. Okay. So put those on your calendar. Next up. There was a question on Twitter about what's going on with local user groups. So the Dynamics user group, DUG, they have set up a meetup page. So meetup.com/pro/dynamics. And it looks like there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 22 different groups that have been set up or registered on Meetup. And I see there are 2 in the UK, 1 in Germany, it looks like. So at least an August meeting in UK, a September meeting in UK, and an August meeting in Germany. I don't know the details of those or how they operate, if it's in person, virtual. But if you are interested in a local user group, check out this page and see if there is a user group near you. Now, one caveat is they dynamics is a pretty general term. So you'll want to see, I see in the UK, it's August ERP meetup. So is that Business Central? Is that finance? Not exactly sure what they cover. But if you're interested, contact the organizers and see if they have a Business Central group, people who are interested in talking about Business Central. So I have been working on an AppSource submission for Business Central. And we've been developing an AppSource app and kind of casually or informally testing it internally. And we wanted to test with a few beta sites. So the question is, if you are developing with a PTE, as a PTE, a per tenant extension using it's like the 50,000 object ID range, that's fine. But what we did is we started to prep the application with our assigned AppSource object ID range. So we were somewhere in the 7 million or whatever that ID range is that was assigned to us. So we retrofitted our object IDs and object names to use our object IDs. We changed our object names with our affix or suffix for our organization. And we then realized, well, you cannot send that app file out and have someone upload that and import it into their online SaaS Business Central sandbox environment, for instance. So we thought, okay, do we maintain two versions of our application with a PTE object range? So our beta customers can just import that extension. Or do we only keep our SaaS object IDs, which means we need to go through AppSource? And we said, well, let's just bite the bullet. Let's get our application in AppSource so that we don't have to maintain different object IDs, so that customers can just go to AppSource and install the beta version, and we'll just be over that hump and in AppSource. Sounds nice in theory. So that took us a couple weeks to just get all of our details finalized, get all the website pages, terms and conditions, all of the marketing and technical checklist items. It wasn't too bad. It's just a lot of little things, housekeeping we had to clean up. So we thought, great, we'll be able to publish this as a beta version. And in AppSource, there is this page called availability. You specify which countries it should be available in, and they have this option for a preview audience. I thought, cool. When you publish or update an offer, we will create a preview version accessible to only the audience that you specify. Okay, the audience will be able to see and verify the details of your offer before it goes live. Now, there is a learn more link here, but it takes you to a generic page which has zero mention of preview audience or hide key as far as I could tell. And you'll see the hide key is a token that is used to view the preview of your offer in AppSource before going live. It can be any lowercase alphanumeric string. So I thought, okay, let's call this beta 1. So we go through the process, submit. We had a mistake, we had to fix it, and we finally got approved, went through automated review, automated validation, and it finally got approved and it went live. Well, it went live for everyone. It was not preview. There is no place to enter a hide key or a preview key or a beta 1 or anything. So I have questions. I don't know if this is working. I don't know if it's active. I don't know if we were published because this is our first release and this is only relevant for our subsequent releases. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to ask on the Yammer AppSource forum to see what this actually does. I assumed it worked and did something, but as far as I could tell, it does not withhold the app that we published at all in any way whatsoever. So we're freely able to just click on install app and install it in a sandbox or even a production environment. So with that said, we're looking to beta test before we kind of announce and go live formally, but we're in AppSource and so be it. So that was interesting. I need to look into that and see if there is a way to have, say, a beta release or a preview release that does not get fully released to all customers. I think that's a valuable feature. It just, at least on an initial release, it doesn't appear to do anything. So that was interesting. On a different topic, I today, for the very first time, learned about something called Success by Design. Apparently, this is part of a program or under the umbrella of what's called FastTrack for Dynamics 365. And this kind of reminds me of the old, I forget what the name is. It's like the project implementation methodology that Microsoft used to have. It was just unbelievably cumbersome. So I'm curious what this is like, what type of methodology or what recommendations they have. And this comes via my friend Sean Dorward at lifehacks365.com on Twitter. So there's a main FastTrack URL, and I'll try to remember to just copy all the URLs from this session into the YouTube comments. So check below for that. So it says FastTracks for Dynamics 365 is a customer success program powered by the Microsoft engineering team to eligible customers and their implementation partners to help them deploy 365 solutions with confidence. So I'm assuming it is some type of implementation methodology. Where then it says Success by Design, SBD, is a prescriptive guidance, approaches, and recommended practices for designing, building, and deploying a 365 solution. Now, they just mentioned Dynamics 365, and in the training, like the Microsoft Learn training, there are references to like project operations and finance. There is, as far as I could tell, zero mention of Business Central, but Sean tells me this is not really a product-specific methodology, and it's more of a general project implementation process. So I'm going to take a look at it. Sean says he's gone through the training, and so we'll see. It looks like it is 11 and a half hours of modules according to their estimates on Microsoft Learn. So if you just search for or Google Success by Design or Microsoft Success by Design, you should be able to find this link, and I will post the links below. So something else to check out in your free time, abundant free time. There is 11 hours of content here for you to work through and learn Dynamics 365 implementation methodology. Good stuff. And AJ Kaufman has 2 new blog posts on OAuth authentication for Business Central APIs called service-to-service authentication. And there's another term for that, but it's basically a form of OAuth authentication with the Business Central APIs. I did start on his the notes from his class on OAuth authentication for BC APIs. I didn't finish the last few steps. I got sidetracked on the AppSource work, but I do want to resume it. But this was kind of the final step of I believe it is one of the preferred OAuth authentication methods for Business Central APIs. So check out his blog, kaufman.nl, and he's got 2 different blog posts on that topic. And in other news, if you are doing Business Central development in AL, you should be aware of Luke Van Vuet's book, Automated Testing in Business Central. He has a 2nd edition coming up. It is scheduled apparently for release December 9th, 2021. So definitely check that out. It is not showing up on the Pact Publishing website yet, but it is listed on Amazon for pre-order, releasing around December 9th. So check that out. I believe I have a Pact Publishing annual subscription, whatever they call that. So I'll be waiting till it actually gets published, and I'll be able to get it as part of that Pact Publishing program. But apparently you can pre-order on Amazon. So there you go. Congratulations, Luke. Thank you for doing a second edition. It includes some changes and fixes and updates to reflect the changes in Business Central, the many changes in Business Central. And I believe he also added a chapter to provide additional content to supplement the original book. So I look forward to reading that. So if you are doing Business Central development, and especially if you are doing AppSource development for Business Central, this book, the entire automated testing methodology, I believe is essential. If you are not doing automated testing for an AppSource app, you are going to be in trouble. That's just my thought. So I strongly recommend learning that. My friend Tanya Henderson has a blog post. She posted about underutilized features, or she's working on a series of underutilized features in Business Central, one of which is recurring lines. So check out her blog post on recurring lines in Business Central, and I believe that's in purchasing and sales, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't personally used that feature, but she has told me about it many times. And of course, Yoon Chu has many new blog posts. It's almost daily. It is just staggering how he is able to come up with these things. And I mean, these are not like just little tiny tidbits. I mean, check this first one out over here. Dynamics Business Central getting geographical location information from the client device, latitude and longitude. I mean, that's incredible, like super cool. I would have never thought of that. Brilliant idea. I'm going to check it out. Super cool. It's like, hey, like, where is this user? And one of the things that ties into this is when I am installing an AppSource application, I would like to know where the user is at or where the primary customer location is so that during installation, I can set default time zone information. So in my case, I'm interested in knowing, well, if I'm going to run a scheduled task, I'd like it to run at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. or whatever in that user's time zone. Well, on installation of the AppSource app, I don't necessarily know that. So I'm wondering, can we get information about the client information, maybe during or after installation, in order to set defaults around that user's time zone so that we can have local time zone specific tasks or local time zone specific activity for that user. And maybe we have a user in the United States, a user in the UK. How do we understand where the user is at so that we can have context for the tasks that are performed? So this might be an interesting way of doing that, not sure. And then another very interesting one that I was not aware of, my friend Tanya failed to tell me about this. She taught me about configuration packages, which are pretty common, but I didn't realize that configuration packages could actually post documents. Now, in all fairness, when I look at the window to perform this operation, it is not at all obvious to me that that is what it is for. It is just like, really? That's posting? And so I need to read up on it because I'm reading his blog post and I see how it's done, and nowhere in that process is it clear to me, the uneducated Business Central user, that that is a posting operation. It's not intuitive at all, in my humble opinion. Like, how people knew that that existed or how someone's expected to know that that's what that's for, not clear to me. So his blog post shows it, explains it, but even seeing what it's doing, I do not see the word posting anywhere in the process. So I'm a little curious to learn more about that. And of course, Eric has several new videos, 4 in the last week. So creating a multi-page wizard in AL, I was familiar with that. I haven't done it. The evil of page extensible equals false in AL. I've seen that catch a couple of people. And also I've seen that occurring in standard Business Central pages, causing some problems. And he has a demo of app security And then lastly, to scope or not scope AL procedures. So constant content coming out of Eric's YouTube channel, so check that out. Stefan Marone has some updates. He has updated and modified his Business Central Code History GitHub repository. So if you haven't seen that, check that out on GitHub. There's the URL. And he recently did a blog post that is interesting about dynamic code. And he shows an example where a process had a performance hit taking roughly 650% longer than normal given a particular implementation in AL. So in his case, his example is 5-second wait to make a modification on a Business Central sales header. So pretty significant performance impact that he was seeing in a particular example. So check out his blog post there. Related to all of this stuff, Matthew Perrin asks a question that is on many of our minds, or related to a topic that we're all thinking about. If you work for a Microsoft partner, how much training time do you get, either formal or self-led? And he uses the term training time. And like when I hear that, I kind of think of more formal training or, kind of discrete training. Maybe that's MS Learn, whatever. And so there's definitely that training time. And then I think there's the additional category of just learning time. Like it's not necessarily a formal training course, but okay, I know Business Central APIs, web APIs, but I need to learn the OAuth piece of it. And so I need to take some time to learn that component, for instance. Or maybe I saw Tanya's blog post and I need to understand, okay, how can I start to use recurring lines? Or maybe I'm an AL developer and I see Yunchu's blog post on getting the coordinates of a client, or using the posting feature and configuration packages, right? It's just endless, one thing after another. How do I keep up with that? And so how much time do you get from your employer allocated to those things? And how much time do you set aside for yourself? Is that evenings and weekends? And it's just nonstop. So for me, I just don't have good boundaries on when that occurs. It is constant, like every day. So in the phone call I had with Sean, he mentioned this, whatever that, what was that? I've already forgotten the name of it. Wow. Success by design. So it's like, wait, what is that? So I stopped, I pulled it up and looked it up, and that's why I included it in this presentation, because I'd never heard of it. So constantly throughout the day, I'm picking up little clues, and I hear someone mention something, I read something on Twitter, and it's just a nonstop treadmill for me. Now, if I really need to dig into something, I need to set aside time, and that is difficult. But kind of curious, how much time do you have if you work for someone? Do you get a discrete chunk of time set aside for training or learning? It is a challenge. More learning. This is a very interesting product by Borut Jurs. Sorry, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. But he has created something called Business Central Table Relationship Diagrams, or ERD, Entity Relationship Diagrams, for Business Central. And this is a fascinating website that allows you to apparently pull in tables and show the relationships between them, presumably the primary keys or foreign keys of those tables. So I have not actually tried it, but I've seen his tweets on the topic. And let me know, what do you think? Check out his Twitter account at Borut Jurs on Twitter. He tweets about this project, and yeah, it looks interesting. Certainly the visual component of it is very interesting. Now, we had something similar to this in the dynamic GP world. They used to publish them as Visio diagrams. It sounds interesting in concept. It sounds appealing, like something you would want. In practice, I don't know that many people used it in the GP world. You'll open this thing, it's this massive entity diagram, and you had to zoom in and check the fields. And I think if you're researching a particular relationship or building a particular query, something like that, it might be of value, or you're working on Power BI or Power Automate, Power Apps, something like that, exposing relationships via custom web API. It might be valuable for a specific project. I don't know it's something you're gonna browse, but he does. My understanding is he does allow you to add certain tables and see those relationships. So for a given project, that might be how it is used. So check it out. Very interesting project. Really cool visual representations of the Business Central tables. Okay. On a personal note, I have been using a Raspberry Pi for DNS on my internal network using an application called Pi-hole. It's a free open source probably application, and it is very cool because it operates at the DNS level to perform ad blocking, malware blocking, annoyance or at-risk URL or DNS blocking at the DNS level. So if you're familiar with ad blockers in the browser, those are okay, but they operate at the page level, and they will just block ads or hide ads. And those ad blockers can be detected by pages. So you have ad blockers, and then websites have ad blocker blockers that prevent you from viewing the page if you are using an ad blocker. But so it's like an arms race, but this operates at the DNS level. So if you request a doubleclick.net resource, it will just say, sorry, couldn't find that domain name, and that DNS request will fail, and the page will continue to load. Just that ad will fail to be displayed at all because the ad retrieval URL just didn't work. I found it to be very effective. It does require a little management, but overall it's worked fantastic, and my family loves it. Earlier this week or last week, several days ago, I had my Pi-hole, my Raspberry Pi, just kind of stopped working. So when I went to retrieve a page, DNS wasn't working, and I found the Pi 3 I was using was not responding. I actually had to unplug it and plug it back in to reboot it. And so that got me, it's normally very, very reliable. So I can't remember the last time I've had an issue with it. So that kind of got me concerned. So I had a spare Raspberry Pi 4 sitting around from another project that didn't work out. So I bought a new SD card and I imaged it for Pi-hole, got that up and running. And that is my new primary DNS. I'm now using the Raspberry Pi 3 as a secondary DNS. So I highly recommend it. Great project, great way to, have a little Raspberry Pi running. And so that's at piehole.net. But I posted this on Twitter and I got a recommendation to try AdGuard. It's AdGuard Home, AdGuard Home Server, something like that, or AdGuard at Home. And apparently it's very similar to Pi-hole. They have a couple distributions, one of which is for Raspberry Pi. And they claim to have a few advantages over Raspberry Pi. HTTPS on the web interface. It doesn't have to run as root. It supports like HTTPS or secure DNS, something like that. So a few technical advantages. I don't know what the usability advantages are. So I need to try it, but I'm going to check that out, adguard.com, and it's AdGuard Home, apparently. So that's an update. And if you're interested in reducing your ads, and if you have a Raspberry Pi, it's a fun little project. Works great, and it also reduces your reliance on external DNS entries. I found my DNS to be extremely reliable over the last 2 years as a result of running Pi-hole. And this is just a random thing I just saw on Twitter from a retweet from Ginger Grant. So this is kind of I'm assuming this is a movie sci-fi context. When people travel to the past, they worry about radically changing the present by doing something small. But few people think they can radically change the future by doing something small in the present. So I'm assuming the context is like, hey, you can do something small that is beneficial or can change the future. So interesting thought in that regard. But interestingly, it made me think about time travel in movies and science fiction books and stuff like that. It's like, well, why is a small change? Why would a small change radically change the present or in the future if you go back in the past? And I think the common trope is that if you see yourself or if you interact with yourself, it's like, oh, you will see yourself and that's going to radically alter your future because you see a copy of yourself and you freak out and it alters the future. But like if you go to a diner or talk to someone or you bet on the Yankees or whatever that interaction is, whatever you do in the past that alters the future, why? Why does that one little thing dramatically alter the future? So I'm sure I could brush up on my science fiction time travel rules and figure that out. But it's an interesting concept, food for thought. So with that, those are some Business Central updates, stuff I found interesting, stuff I'm working on, stuff I'm trying to learn, and stuff that you can learn yourself. So I hope that was interesting and helpful. So go forth and learn some Business Central. Okay, have fun. Talk to you later.
Good